Thank you very much. We'd now like to begin with plenary session 3S schedule, Media and the Diaspora. And it gives me great pleasure to invite our esteemed panel on stage, beginning with Dr. Tamima Aman, writer and anthropologist from the United Kingdom, followed by Dr. Assam Sajid Akhtar, professor of political economic, Quwat Al-Azam University from Islamabad, and from Pakistan as well. Dr. C Raja Mohan, senior fellow, Center for Policy Research, New Delhi, and also the contributing editor for the Indian Express and visiting research professor at the Institute of South Asian Studies, Singapore. And moderating this session is Professor S.D. Muni, visiting research professor, Institute of South Asian Studies, Singapore, and India's former Special Envoy to Southeast Asia countries on UN Security Council reforms. Please join me in giving our panel a big warm welcome to the stage, please.
Welcome, everybody. I certainly cannot match the eloquence and charm of Ambassador Tommy Coe in being an anchor. But let me mimic him, imitate him, at least in one respect. Though the eminent panelists have been already introduced, at least in introducing one of the first panelists, that I also know him for last 30 years. We have been friends for last 30 years, and with the growth in the years, our understanding and warmth has also grown. We have Raja Mohan. We have a panel on media and diaspora. And as you know, this has several dimensions. Economic and cultural aspects were emphasized in the morning. I was doing a study on insurgencies in South Asia, and I found that the diaspora played a very, very critical role in fueling and fanning these insurgencies. And what they relied upon, the instrumentalities which they relied upon, media and communication was one of the most important one. Now, as I said, we have a very eminent panel which will throw light on different aspects of this interaction between media and diaspora. And let us see what are the areas which are being covered. We were talking about the diaspora connectivity, diaspora bridges, and I think one of the very strong beam of these bridges and connectivity is media and communication. With this very brief introduction, because we, in the chair, actually, the moderator is a respectable name for a timekeeper. So we have to keep time rather than introduce the subject. And may I request Raja Mohan to start. We are obviously running a bit late in our time schedule, and I hope and urge the panelists to stick strictly to the time schedule. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Muni. Thank you for that introduction. And it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. I'm sure you all had a long day, and speech fatigue might be about to set in. What I thought I'll do is really to begin by thanking the Institute for South Asian Studies and the Singapore government for embarking on this bold venture. Because the idea that diasporas are important, that idea has been around for at least 25 years in the subcontinent, where most governments, starting with the Indian government, the politicians running these governments found that it is quite beneficial to reach out to the hearts of the diaspora living outside, as well as touch their pockets. That once the politicians saw the importance of reaching out to the diaspora, we've seen conscious efforts by different governments in South Asia to emphasize the connections with the diaspora. But what we're trying to do today, I think is different. Here, the emphasis is on getting the South Asian diasporas, each one so far quoted by their own respective national governments. The question we're asking today is, can these different groups of diasporas of each of the 8 countries in South Asia, Can they get together? Can they contribute to the regional economic integration, regional cultural integration of South Asia, which is the broad aim that Chairman Gopinath Pillai put out earlier this morning. I think what I would like to do is to essentially address three issues. One thing I've learned when I was part of the diaspora in Singapore from Guru Tommy Koh was never make more than 3 points in a presentation, so I'll stick to 3 points. What I'll try and do is really one, if the emphasis is on regionalism, which Parag talked about this morning, that let me try and break down the concept of regionalism into sub-regional notion, into the notion that there are many sub-regions within South Asia. Second, I'll try and stretch out the notion of regionalism to encompass trans-regional possibilities. That is, go beyond South Asia. How do we connect to the neighboring regions? And third, what role can media play in achieving these objectives of promoting both sub-regional cooperation led by the diasporas as well as trans-regional cooperation in this, what role can media play? Those are the 3 points I wish to make. First, I think as South Asians, those of us who live outside South Asia, like those within the subcontinent, we carry multiple identities. At one level, we are Indians, we are Pakistanis, we are Bangladeshis, we are Bhutanese, we are Nepalese, we are Afghans, etc. But we're also something else. We've got other identities that go with our persona. Those include, we are Punjabis, we might be Bengalis, we are Telugus, we are many different communities that make up the subcontinent. It's easy to think of South Asia today as a region comprised of 8 nation states. We all know who the members of the SAARC are. But that's not the only way of imagining South Asia of the nation states. South Asia also comprises of regions. You can imagine South Asia not as 8 states, but also as many different communities, many different cultural groups that exist in South Asia. And that too is a reality. While we define nation states as imagined communities, there are far more important identities that we carry with ourselves, those based on, for example, on language, on culture. In the morning, one of the questioners raised the question, it's not just, what is a practical way of actually promoting cooperation among the diasporas? And that can only come through the specific identities that are below the identity of Melias carrying our particular national identity, and those relate to sub-regional identities within the subcontinent. The whole range of identities here within South Asia. And I think these identities are important because while all of us tend to be nationalist, those who are outside tend to be even more nationalistic sometimes, that there are the sub-regional identities that we carry could actually contribute far more creatively to the current challenges facing South Asia. That given the multicultural, multiracial, multi-linguistic nature of many of the societies in South Asia, we've had a problem in South Asia of balancing the competing imperatives, the imperative of building a new nation state, as well as ensuring the different cultural identities that exist within South Asia, within each of our countries. I don't think we can claim we've done a great job, but the fact is those identities do exist, the Punjabi identity, the Bengali identity, or the Tamil identity, or the Telugu identity, those identities are real. Since most of us and the media replicate our cultural selves through language, through media, that is done most of the time in our own mother tongues. Some of us do write in English, but most of us, you carry your cultural heritage through language, music, food, and culture that go with particular regional identities.